Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you may be in the world. Welcome to today's conversation on Gift of Healing TV. I'm Sarah Jane, and I am delighted to be joined by, now we're going to have another person with us. She's just not here at the moment, by Jean Voicedart. Jean, thank you as one of my co-hosts.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Our other co-host is Diane Woodford, and she will be with us. Here she comes.
Hello.
And welcome to Diane, who's looking very much in the dark at the moment. And I'm thinking I haven't turned lights on, so I'm going to be shortly.
Let me see. Yes, I am. Sure.
Hi, Diane. And
hi.
And our guest. We're live, Diane. Awesome. Our guest, Sonja Lidal. Sonja, thank you so much for joining us and for putting up with the mayhem we have had on the setting up of this. Thank you so much for joining us. It's lovely to have you here.
Thank you so much. And actually, this is really appropriate for the work I do because it's all about handling situations when everything goes wrong. How do you handle that?
And the title of this program is Capacity Leadership. So Sonja, please share a little about yourself and why this particular topic. And I am listening. I'm just going to turn some lights on.
Absolutely. So for me, it's so personal because it really stemmed from my journey. I lived in that overwhelmed survival mode for like 15 years. And so I used to, when I first got into the coaching world, using my journey, plus, of course, you do some trainings and stuff like that. I really started focusing with women, helping the stress, the anxiety, the overwhelm. And then I realized it occurred to me, stress, anxiety, and overwhelm are just emotions. And so then I was already doing it, but transitioned more of that emotional regulation, the nervous system regulation, calming everything down. And then the capacity part comes in where I have a lot of goals, and I know like driven women, and I don't want to exclude men, but just I focus with women. We have things we want to accomplish. And of course, we still have by nature, the home, the family, but now we have the work and all the other goals. And for a lot of us, it's not just a career. It's usually side hobbies and charities and something to do with dog rescues and stuff like that. And so I realized I don't want to take stuff off my plate to lower my stress. I need a bigger plate. Like, I don't want to get rid of goals or diminish them. I just need to expand my capacity to be able to handle it all. Plus, to the point of how we started, whatever life throws us, because we have no control over that, and just keep rolling with it.
Whoops. All right. I'm sure we've got Diane here somewhere. And that's brilliant because it's so important for us to be able to actually to find the time for rest and relaxation. That has to be a major.
This is.
It really does. So sort of, well, I'm sure we'll get Diane back. So Jean, any thoughts?
Yes, it's interesting. I just came off of another meeting. I was hosting that, jumping in here. And it was a similar discussion that, there's just so much happening now in the world. There's so many things that get thrown on our plate, as you say. And I love that you say, just get a bigger plate. Something that came up for me in that meeting is a question was asked, how do you do it, Jean? How do you handle when all this is going on? You've got all these different goals, you're in multiple meetings, and you have a lot of deadlines. How do you maintain joy and service and get things done, And I said, well, I think it's just declaring that whatever happens, there's a purpose for that, and I'm going to receive from it. So instead of waking up and saying, oh my gosh, which is true, I've got like 4 back-to-back meetings in a row. How am I going to manage it? Instead of saying that in my consciousness, saying, I'm going to have so many blessings, each one I'm going to tell myself that there's something here that's just going to empower me. There's something here in this first one and in the second one and the third one, and they're all going to help me get this big project done that I have to turn in my book tonight or my deadline. They're all going to help me, instead of my mind saying, I should cancel all those because I got a deadline tonight. I'm saying they're going to build me up and empower me and open doors to make that even better. And it's amazing. It's amazing when I do that, what happens. It actually does happen. And it's open, and I have more energy than ever. So,
and that sounds exactly like that saying. I'm sure you guys have heard it. Life happens for us, not to us. So that's right on the page with all my messaging and I do, and I love that.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to be. We have Diane back again. Diane, you obviously did you hear any of what Sonja said?
Where I left off is where she said what we're having, this technical difficulty, is what she does. It's a part of her expertise. And I also think it's a part of who we are, because we remain calm and we keep going. And thank you, Sarah Jane, for preparing us to do that. Thank you.
So Sonja, some more thoughts from you on this capacity leadership, on sort of maybe a sort of an instance. I know we've been through some of it, but it is being able to be calm and relaxed when things happen. Technology is usually the one time I'm not, except for when I'm doing a program, and then I can be really calm about it.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, and just using the words like capacity leadership, is because I know leadership tends to throw a few people off in that word. But what I mean by it is to get to the point where we have the capacity to handle whatever life throws at us. Doesn't matter the emergency, but the leadership of ourselves, that we don't need that outside source. So my goal is to get my clients, well, everyone, but to the point where we can lead ourselves and hold our own capacity and kind of grow ourselves. And then we choose to have support because it makes our life better. It makes things go faster, and it just enables us to grow exponentially, but we don't necessarily need it because we have the ability to lead ourselves. So when the going gets tough or technology fails and we're on our own, we can still muster through without that support. That makes sense?
Mm-hmm.
It does. So Diane, any thoughts?
Absolutely. I mean, I'm sitting out here at a coffee shop making it work. And I think the most important thing of it is to show up. So it's just like, this is something that's important to me. So I want to show up. Sometimes I can show up perfectly. Sometimes I can show up imperfectly. But the bottom line is to show up. And so we're going to make it work. We're going to breathe through, and we're not going to freak out. And we're going to work with technology and make it work.
I love that, Diane. I'm working on a book right now, Brave Families, and you said show up. And in one section, I wrote the story about my mother. And when I think about leadership, I can't stop thinking about her and thinking about community. I think about her. is she would have us, the three girls, she'd bring us everywhere, and she was so much about service and going to the church and set up the poinsettias for Sunday service. And then, okay, we're going to stop by. I got to wash Mrs. Perkins' hair. Come on in. You can play with the cat. Okay, so now we got to stop by and do this. And she's this Girl Scout leader, and she's, hey, honey, I got some and I can help you with this. Let's do this. And I'm watching her as a child, and I'm thinking, she knows something about service and community. I want to be able to do that when I grow up. She knows how to get all the love and help people. And what she taught me is that, community and leadership, it's not about where you are or what you do. It's how you show up, she just kept showing up and showing up. How's your daughter doing? Showing up with love. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Let me come over. I got a cake I baked for you or something. She's just always showing up and not feeling overwhelmed, feeling full of so much love.
Mm-hmm.
I think you sort of talking about the book, which I am part of. And as you sort of talking about your mother, I was thinking about actually my grandmother, and during the Second World War and everything that the women at that time. But what were the men going through? Think about the firefighters.
Yeah.
Obviously, because I'm in England, and sort of London wouldn't have existed without all the firefighters fighting those fires every night. But then people like my grandmother, because back then, when you married, women weren't allowed to work, but she was a qualified nurse. And so although she wasn't allowed to work because she was married and she had my mum, who the outside of the war was too, she then became part of the community and was very much helping the doctors because of her training. So there have been many, many women and men who, in situations like war and family disruption, all sorts of things, who have found themselves just having to get on with it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think about the youngsters of today. I was having a conversation with a lady I see walking her dogs. And neurodiversity, it's now got a name, neurodiversity. It was learning difficulties and it was mentally handicapped before that. It had different names. But those of us, there are many of us who potentially have aspects of neurodiversity when we were children, but it didn't exist then, not for the more minor cases. We had to find a way to make life work for us. And so are we more resilient today as the older generation because we had no choice? Whereas the youngsters of today are getting the support so much earlier. So here's a thought is, are we actually better off for having to make life work for us?
Yeah.
I do think so, because it taught us that critical thinking, that problem solving. Like, we really had to dig deep. And I find, I don't know, it's almost like we knew no one was going to save us because no one understood us. It was one of those where I had to doodle in order to pay attention. And all my report cards said, Sonja doesn't apply herself. Sonja doesn't pay attention. But I was an honor student always. So I just had to find the way that I could pay attention properly to get the work done. And I do feel it really helped me. I feel it's similar to, as an adult, I'm actually very thankful. I grew up quite poor. I couldn't afford the brand name. I had my first job at 11 because it taught me that appreciation of money. And I value the things I buy, similar to the rich kids who don't really a lot of them are not raised with the valuing what the dollar is and how much sweat it takes to earn it type thing. So I do think there is something to that, allowing kids to struggle, so to speak, to find their way. Actually, there was an interesting story I read about a toddler trying to climb up the rope ladder at the park. And the mom said, the best thing you can do is let her struggle. She will figure it out, or she's not ready. And I was like, that's beautiful. Yes, I agree. So, yeah.
Well, I want to jump in there because I was opposite of you, Sonja. With me, it was Diane. She talked too much. Diane, she spoke her mind. And, when I think about today, I'm like, they might have tried to put me on some Ritalin or something. But instead, what happened is I had a dot that just helped me and just helped me to find my balance and helped me to keep my voice while learning when to speak and, when not to speak, right? And so even with my grandkids now, I allow them the freedom to speak and say whatever it is that they want to say. And the foundation is kindness. They just have to be kind. It's just like you can say whatever you want to say. If you don't agree with something, you can say it, giving them that freedom, right? But you have to be kind and it has to be respect. And lastly, I feel like because I struggle, because I wasn't brought up in a rich home, I tried to give my kids the life that I didn't have. And so I took away a lot of the struggle for them. I took away a lot of the, can't have things. They got a lot of things. They were very entitled. And what I saw when they became adults is I kind of clipped their claws because they didn't, it's like, okay, I need to step back. And I literally told my son one time, I said, you need to be hungry. And I couldn't believe that I was saying that to him, but I was like, you need to be hungry. I said, because once you're hungry, then you're going to understand a lot. And, now as adults, they've had and overcome struggles. But for me, I had to stand down. And that's the hardest part of a parent, because when you see your child suffering or struggling, the first thing you want to do is go in there and save them. And that's not necessarily the best thing to do.
Jean.
Oh, I love that. I love what both of you said. All of you, Sarah Jane, Sonja, and Diane. Yeah, I can connect to all that, and especially the kindness and the struggle and all that. That thread, look at the capacity leadership. A leader who is kind is so much more powerful than one who's trying to get everything done and saying, oh, no, you do this, you do that, come on, let's get this done. But that kindness and teaching others about self-care and taking time, a good leader applauds that. I'm so glad you're taking your mother to the doctor today. You go ahead and do that. That's so important. A good leader, and I've been a CEO of a company, and a good leader does that with kindness, and that magic makes the company stronger. We all pull together then as a community. I'll pause a minute with that noise.
Yeah.
That helps us. And then we pop up and say, hey, do you want me to help you? I understand that this is happening for you. Because the leader has put that out and shown that. And we need to show that to our children, how to do that. And I love what was said about the tough times. I've had a really unusual, tough life, lots of stuff. And I'm sitting in a wheelchair right now, and had assault as a child and a teen, and I was in a homeless shelter. I've had all kinds of stuff, but I've also had limitless joy and love and support and community. And I don't think I would have found that had I not gone through all these things, because it made me reach out and create an extended family, a bigger community. And it helped me be a leader with compassion. And I think that's important. But this is an interesting question. Sonja, do you believe that we need to suffer or struggle in order to be good leaders and have compassion? What do you think? I think that's interesting. I'm not saying that, but I know that for me, it really helps me calm down and not have such rigid expectations and have that flexibility and compassion.
Yeah, I don't think we need it necessarily. I think it does help some of us for sure. And I guess it would really come down to the individual person. I know myself, I have been stubborn, big-headed, like very, I'm half German and I take after my Oma a lot. And I always joke that's where I get it from. And so I'm one of those people. I do learn best from falling on my face and getting back up. So for me personally, yes, I think I needed those struggles to learn from. Does everyone need them? No, probably not. I just love like those little kids you see and you can say, I'm very disappointed in you. And they just run to their room and punish themselves. And they're just the sweetest things. Like, I don't think that kid needs to fall to learn. I think people like that are just so in tune that they can take the lessons and apply them. Whereas people like me need a little bit of struggle to really get it through the stubbornness of our brains sometimes.
Experience can actually, but experience is character, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not saying it has to be struggle, but it's experience. And I think, to be perfectly honest, I'm not going to say everybody, but the majority of people do have some sort of struggle in their life in many different ways. Those who've got money, who've got so-called more security, but has money made them happy? The thing, the majority of the happiest people are those that don't have anything. So it's not about what we have, it's about what we make of what we have. And I think it was you that was saying it was about, I started the paper round at 12. My parents, when I was probably about 11, 12, had a hotel. We didn't get pocket money. From as soon as they got the small hotel, we didn't get pocket money. If we didn't work, we didn't get anything. Mm-hmm. We were very much raised with that. And there wasn't a lot of money. There never was a lot of money. I remember, and this is pre-decimalisation, we were saving up our sixpences so that we could go for a holiday to London at the end of the summer and go to the Palladium, London Palladium, go and see Cliff Richard and the Shadows. It was to save to do things like that. Things weren't handed to us on a plate. But so many people who appear to have things handed to them on a plate, as you said, they don't appreciate how it's got to them.
I have a suggestion or question. There's a lot of noise, and I'm a deaf person, and out of respect for deaf and hard of hearing, could maybe Diane push the mute button when she's not talking to help out that community? Because I'm a big advocate for disability and hearing loss. Thank you.
Absolutely. Diane, I don't know whether you can hit a button that mutes you because we've lost your video.
I did hit it. Is it not mute?
We heard you then. But there seemed to be something before that was, and then when you speak, then yes, we obviously want you to unmute.
Thank you.
The joy of being outside. So Sonja, obviously this is your topic, and we've maybe, I don't know whether we've gone off on a tangent here, but maybe there's something that you talk about, a bigger plate. So your thoughts, how do people get a bigger plate?
Yeah, and that, right? Because I think it really comes down to that nervous system, calming the nervous system, because when we're in that overwhelm, the stress, anxiety for so long, we're pure survival mode, and we're just like fried. Like even my neighbor thought she was so relaxed, and I'm also a massage therapist, and I was giving her a massage, and she's just like, and I said, do you ever notice when you're even sitting on the couch and your body is tense, even though you're relaxed, you still feel tense? And she's like, oh my God, yes, I just noticed that the other day. And I said, that's the nervous system. It can't like let go. It's just like, well, as I say, it's jacked right up. And so it's about calming it down, but also having that emotional control. I'm sure we've all noticed there's a lot of not regulated people out there throwing, I call them the adult tantrums. And I say that because I used to be that person, throwing adult tantrums, stomping around, not talking to my boyfriend for 4 days. And it's just a complete lack of learning to control those emotions. And so when we can start the journey with obviously having awareness, that's always the first step. But then being able to, someone says something we don't like, and we can take the pause, and instead of having the emotions spew out at them, we can just like get clarity, ask more questions. Is this what you meant? And if it comes across that, yeah, they're intending to hurt us or be belligerent or whatever, then we can choose to ignore them, walk away. Like we can make our choices about it and not have this, steam out the ears and all that sort of reaction. And when we can control all that, keeping our cool, we allow our nervous system to remain calm also. So that's the first step. And we have to calm everything down, take the wheel back from that emotional toddler driving. And then when that happens, that's when we have the ability to start growing our plate, because we can start adding more and more, because it doesn't matter what's coming in. Okay, what's next? I got this. So but yeah, it all starts with really calming the nervous system, gaining control over the emotions, because I'm sure you guys have noticed it's a little bit of it, especially us older generations. I was born and raised in the 80s, and we didn't even talk about emotions. I used to joke in college, I had two emotions, hunger and anger. And I was proud of that. I thought it was hilarious, but that was kind of my generation. So most of us are not raised to know these things. So it is a bit of a process to gain control and learn it later in life, but it can be done. I have done it, still working on it, don't get me wrong, but
we're all a work in progress, aren't we?
Absolutely.
I have a little quiet, so I'm going to jump in because I have a little quiet. And so I just wanted to say that pause is pivotal. That pause is so powerful. I mean, I was a emotional kind of growing up. I grew up in the 60s, right? But it's just like where a child should be seen and not heard. But then you say speak up, and then you say shut up. And so it's just like, come on, what do you want from me? So it's just like, well, I'm going to just speak my mind, because, if I'm going to be penalized either way, then I'm going to be penalized saying what I need to say, right? Even if that meant that I had to scream like, hey, you guys, I got something to say, right? And I tell you what, that's okay growing up. But as you become an adult, you have to learn how to calibrate that, because you can't really take that behavior into a professional setting. You can't really take that behavior into an adult community, right? So that pause is so pivotal, because you get a chance to reset your nervous system. And I can just say this, after going through what I did with Charles when he was in the hospital, I was on 10. Like I was on 10 all the time. Well, when we got home from the hospital, it's just like being on 10 was wearing me out, right? So you have to reset and bring it down. So, it's like that pause has been the best way for me to just recalibrate that nervous system, give you a minute to think about it, because sometimes you want to say something and you don't need to say it. So that pause is that space to let you figure that out. So yeah, I love what you said, Sonja.
Oh, thank you. And actually, I do want to just add to that quickly. This reminds me, like one of my clients I'm working with, she is a business owner and she deals with other business owners and stuff. And it's actually quite remarkable how childlike the people she has to deal with. And she'll sometimes come to me and be like, okay, this is what's happening. Like, am I hearing this properly? And I'm like, okay, you are dealing with someone who has no emotional regulation. So you need to step up. And, and it's funny how often nowadays I'm hearing and seeing that people are bringing this into business. And I feel like that's why it's, I don't want to say harder, but more important for those of us who want to act like adults and have a professional business and be really super successful like that. Because in my personal opinion, I just don't think you're going to, it's a long-term game that needs the adult, professional image that's going to really carry you. No one wants to work with a 4-year-old. Like, I'm sorry if people, get offended, but that's how I see it. And so, yeah, I think it's really important for us to be able to manage our emotions, especially when we encounter people like that.
Jean.
Well, this is a great discussion. Yeah. Thank you for bringing up the topic of emotional integrity, Sonja. Actually, I was dealing with someone in the past few days, every day and up till 2:30 in the morning, helping with assisting a kind of a volatile situation with the person that's part of a group business and trying to get that de-escalated. And yeah, no one wants to work with a 4-year-old, but we have to, I think the only way that for me that I can get through these things when that happens is to just step back, as you say, pause, and you said that too, Diane, and also be willing to not judge that. I mean, we have to judge in order to get through it and know what we need to do. But also be willing to look in the mirror and say, have I ever done that? And what is life teaching me right now from this? And my mind might say, well, I don't do that. That's crazy. That person's way off, but there's something there. There's a ripple. There's a golden thread for everything. There's always a lesson. And if I just pause and say, okay, yeah, I can have compassion for that person. I can understand that. I know sometimes I'm like, oh, my husband's driving me nuts or something. I understand that. I can just de-escalate within myself, and instead of saying, why is this person acting, cray-cray, So when I look at life as a mirror in every single interaction and relationship, I can pause. Okay, what's happening here that I can learn about me? Thank you, God. Thank you, universe. Thank you, source, and journal that, and just receive that blessing, and then come back and talk to the person with that joy-centered and just compassion for the person, and calming down and taking on that leadership role. And it's kind of a parenting role. It is very much a parenting role, as if we're talking to a child and soothing them and using logic and getting through that situation. Yeah.
I think it's, I'm absolutely listening to everything that's being said here. I think it's good for us to be able to have that tantrum every now and again, or that anger or that whatever. We've got to be able to get that out of our system. We can't bottle that, because I used to bottle everything. And as a Taurian, when it erupted, it was far from pretty. So these days it's, do you know what? Get it out your system as quickly as you can. Don't bottle it.
And that's exactly it. It's all about processing, because we have those emotions for a reason. So we need to understand why they're there, process them, and let them go. Because 100% bottling them up. I always say avoiding solves nothing. I don't care. There was this fad for a while in this new generation about just leave, just go away, lock yourself in a room, walk away, disconnect. And I'm like, oh no, don't do that. That solves nothing.
No.
So, you're 100%. We need to process emotions and let them go. Yes.
Oh my gosh, yes. I mean, that's my thing. I'm an expressive arts therapist, psychotherapist, and that's all I do all day long, and help people express. You have internalized pain, drama, emotions. We externalize it through the arts. We get it out. And that's what's beautiful about the arts, whatever it is, movement, drama, painting, music, writing, getting it out is just incredible. And within a snap, within a couple of minutes, you are shifted as you release that in a safe way through the arts. Yeah.
I agree. I love it. I love letting go, just letting it go, because I did used to bury things because if you're very emotional and you're trying to find that balance, you go from one side of the coin to the other side. So you go from blowing up to just stuffing it, right? And stuffing it is not the way, just like blowing up is not the way, right? And I'm really happy to say that in my 60th year of life, I have found a way to just speak it. So when I am upset, instead of just screaming, I am so upset, I'm so mad, I have found a way to just say, you know what? You are hurting my feelings. I think that what you're doing is not taking consideration of my feelings. I feel like you're being selfish, or I feel like you're being mean, or I feel like you're being, and however I feel. And and I put the I in front of it because these are my feelings. So if I say you're mean, so now you're going to come back. So that's a and we're going to have kind of a debate, and it's not a debate. My feelings are not a debate. My feelings are mine. So if I feel like, hey, you're being mean, then I'm going to say it. And that's when the pause come in too, because sometimes it's not the right time to get it out. Sometimes you need to take a beat because you could say something, and I've learned this as well. You can't take your words back. Once they come out, even if you apologize, it's still out there. So that's my take on that.
That's a really good segue into just being able to have a conversation. You literally think about it like a toddler. I remember when I was in those reactive states and I'm just freaking out, you can't have a conversation with someone. The more emotion, the less brain activity, right? And so we even think, because I deal a lot with relationships, when women are stressed out and we're overwhelmed and we're in that survival mode, our relationships suffer. Like I do say, thank God my boyfriend did stay with me, but I do say, like, I don't even know how he put up with me. I would have left me. I was a nightmare, but thank God he did. And because we don't know how to communicate. So all of this not knowing our emotions and having the reactions, there's no communication. And you ask any relationship expert, communication is one of the bedrocks. You need good communication in a relationship. So this, the emotional, the nervous system, it affects every part of our lives, because it's not just the family, the kids, the friends, your parents, like your coworkers, right? It's everything. yeah.
I think about sort of, when somebody says something that you go, oh, asking that question, did you mean what I heard, not what you said? And then rephrase it to try and get across what you heard. But it's obviously being able to be in that place to do that, because if it is something hurt you, but then we teach people how to treat us. And the more we put up with something, the more people think they can do it to us. So it's being able to create that fine line. And it's also actually, are we giving permission to people to hurt us? Do we have to take what they've said on board as having anything to do with us? Could it actually be what they're going through? And that's back to sort of what you, I think, were saying, Jean. It's about sort of being able to stop, take that pause and think, okay, what's going on here? Not just what's going on within us, but what's going on within them. What's going on in their life that what appears to be coming out of their mouth, because the saying is, hurt people hurt people.
You know, yeah, in my experience, when we get lashed out at, 90% of the time it has nothing to do with us. Like, I actually just wrote a post about that. Whatever that person, when you snap on someone, it has nothing to do with what they just did or said. It's something else. So, yeah.
Jean.
Oh, well, I had a really juicy conversation with my husband. It reminds me of that. He was upset and working on the computer, and I said, honey, it's after 10, and why don't you stop working? Let's have some quiet time and turn things off. We already made a commitment we were going to not do that, and he kind of exploded and said, that's not fair, and I said, what's not fair? It's not fair. I got it, and I don't know what she wants, and it's not fair. And I said, well, what's not fair? You know. And it was just like, and I don't know anything. I don't know what you're talking about, And I said, well, I'm tired. I think I'm going to call it a day, and well, it's just not fair. I said, well, before I go to bed, can I have this dance? And it just kind of shifted everything. And he said, okay. And he stood up and we had a little dance. And, just that little shifting, we were trying to understand. Sometimes we can't understand. But just that little shifting and then feeling heart to heart and feeling our bodies and having a little dance. And I said, oh, this is so nice. And then things break down. And then we can talk. And I know that works really well with children when they're having a tantrum. Well, let's just sit over here and draw for a minute, or let's do this. But sometimes just having a little shift, it takes care of everything. And then we just, so what was that all about? Oh, I don't know, and then we work through it and then things come out. So that's the real option, is just to shift or move into, would you like some tea? Let's just, just move the scenery a little bit, shift a little bit. And sometimes things settle and then you can communicate and connect.
And disconnecting from whatever's happening is actually probably the best thing to do. Walk away from it, leave it. Mm-hmm. And I think I've done this. I like to try and get out for at least one walk a day. If I can take morning and mid-afternoon, it gets me off the computer. It gets me away from absolutely everything. I don't have those modern mobile phones. I don't have a phone with me. I go for a walk in the local woods. It gets my head out of it all. And when I can get my head out of it all, take that break, I can come back and I can relook at it and I can see it from a different perspective, point of view. Oh, right, that wasn't as bad as I thought it was. How many times do we put things off because we think they're going to take us too long? And when we eventually have no choice but do them, it's just like, oh God, that was so much easier than I thought it was going to be. We do this to ourselves all the time.
Yes.
And so it's how do we help ourselves? That's a really good place to start. Potentially we can help others in the same way. And I encourage all my clients, give yourself me time on a daily basis. You will achieve so much. When I worked in an office, I went out at lunchtime. I got out of the office at lunchtime. And I think I did it every lunchtime. Maybe not when it tipped it down with rain, but I made a point as many days as I could to get, and I've still continued that today from working from home. I give myself the breaks. When we do, our head comes in to be able to cope much better with things. So Diane, I think you were going to say something, sorry.
Oh, no. That was really, really good. And I was actually going to piggyback on something you said earlier, which was hurt people. And if we can just hold on to that, it's so much easier to then give kindness because we can understand that it's not about us. So, I go to a store or go out to a business and someone screams at me, then I know they don't even know me. So I know this is not about me. So a lot of times I'll try to look at the name tag and I'll say, well, how are you doing, Jane? Or I'll say, have a great day, Jane. Or just say something to bring their name, and you can see on their face, you bring them back. You bring them back into a presence. And sometimes there's apology and sometimes there's not.
Yeah.
But kindness is unconditional. So kindness is with or without an apology, right? And the other thing is just communication, clarity, right? Just that to clarify, I love the dance move you pulled, Jean. I love that. I love like, hey, let's dance. Sometimes what I'll do with Charles is I'll say something like, let's hug it out. There's no way you can do a real hug and not reset. It's gonna reset. You're gonna come out of that hug different. So yeah.
Well, I always like to think too, something that I keep in the back of my mind for those situations like where we don't know people's stories, because we never want to assume, right? And I always think whether it's someone who's not paying attention driving or one of my personal irritations that I had to get over, you're shopping and the person leaves the cart like literally in the middle of the aisle and then stands off and just blocks everything, and they're just completely unaware they're blocking everything. And you're like, I like to remember, I don't know their story. I don't know what they're going through. And it's a little extreme, but it always puts me in my place. They could have just received the most horrible news ever 5 minutes ago. And they're at where they're at, and they're just trying to finish their task. And so it's not for me, like that lady at the store, like maybe her son's in the hospital. I don't know. Maybe they just put their dog down. I don't know. So if I just give her grace and assume that she's not with it for a reason, she has her story and it's not my business. And then I can just wait, say, excuse me, go to a next whatever it is. And just like to bring in that, to your guys' point, that kindness, that compassion of, I don't know what they're going through, but I'm going to assume there's a reason they're behaving like this. And I'm going to carry on over here. And yeah.
Jean.
Well, I love that mantra, give grace, and just repeating that throughout the day as these things happen, because there's just so many opportunities for that. And I do that as well, Sonja, just thinking, well, because I've had a life of hardships and knowing, well, you just don't know what someone's going through. And it's remarkable that our first reaction is, well, that's wrong, or that, what? But yeah, just to remember our own journeys and that kindness and love and compassion for ourselves and others, and passing that forward. And as we pass that forward, we're really, that ripple goes out and we're creating a much better world. We're world changers, we're world shifters. So this isn't just about us and the lady in the grocery store. This is about sending that wave out there of kindness and grace and love and understanding and compassion. And together we're really uplifting and shifting the whole world. So I invite everybody to practice that. Yeah.
We're coming close to the end of the program, and I'd like to have everybody to have the chance to sort of share something. So, Sonja, anything that we haven't touched on that you would like to touch on before we sign out?
Well, I think, oh my goodness, you guys know this work is so vast. There's always a ton, but I think the biggest thing for anyone watching this really is that awareness really is that first step. Like, yes, we can talk about all the pauses and all these beautiful things that do help us, but we can't change what we don't know we do. So it's really about just stepping back and just, oh, hey, I just lashed out at my husband. Okay, why did I do that? And no shame, no guilt, whatever. Start building awareness of where those things are that you're having these behaviors that you're not the most thrilled about, and you want to make those changes, but we need to know what we're doing first before we really can make any changes. So I think, the biggest thing is for people to just understand going into this journey, it's really about getting awareness first and foremost. And I mean, after that, I don't want to say it's easy because it never is, but it just seems easier when you can start spotting all of these things.
Diane, any thoughts?
Yes, I love grace. I love give grace, because that's the key. That's the foundation, of any effective communication. Give yourself grace and give grace to others. And adaptability is what I would say, just adaptability, because to be honest with you guys, I started to just log off. I said, okay, this is just too much. Even after the show up comment, it just kept getting so much. But I'm so glad that I stayed, because it is putting into action the push through. I can say, just push through, but then I can show push through. And that's what, and that's what we did. I feel like the conversation today was definitely challenged by technology. And guess what? We made it. So, yeah, give yourself grace.
Thank you, Diane. Jean.
Yeah, what a great example, Diane. We're so glad you were here to give us that example and inspire us. And I will end with that in a way that, the title is Capacity Leadership. And I think you started off, Sonja, by saying some people are afraid of that word, leadership. And I would like everybody to embrace that, and that you are this brilliant, beautiful, bright, shining light of divine love. You're limitless. You are a leader. And, sometimes it is scary to step into those shoes, but that's what this discussion is all about. You have that capacity to do that. You were born with a mission. You have something that you have these amazing gifts to give. And that gift is that kindness, that grace to give. That part of yourself, whatever that is that you specialize in, honoring that, taking time to listen to that, taking that self-care, and giving that to others. So step into those shoes and that capacity for leadership and recognize who you are as soul.
Bless you. Thank you. We are the CEO of our own life. And it's for us to take that, to take it in both hands and say, yes, this is my life for me to live. Now, if you're somebody who's married, somebody who's got children, yes, they are an aspect of that, but it is still your life. And it is not, sort of last year, I sort of, with help sort of from 26 other people, created a book. I didn't become selfish. I became harder to manipulate. And it is for us to be very much proactive in our own life. There are going to be times when it's, for want of a better word, give in to others, but not to the pure detriment of ourselves. It's our life. It's learning to say no to others and yes to yourself. Empowering you. And when we empower ourselves, it's amazing how many more people around us we help to empower themselves. It can change not just your life, it can change other people's lives. And we're talking for the better here. There can be losses on the way. And I'm not talking about death. I'm talking about there will be people that will leave your life. But they aren't the people that should be in your life when you're true to yourself. And that's very powerful to be true to you. And I know because I've had to learn to do it. Sort of from the people pleaser to the person who has learned to say no. I still make suggestions and think, why did I say that? We all do. That's part and parcel of having the human experience. But be true to who you are. The person that is buried beneath everything that everybody else has told you to be. There's a very important, special person beneath all of that stuff. And it's really important that we find it. And we are true to ourselves. Thank you to each and every one of you. Sonja, your website address is bit.ly/next steps4 I will, if you're watching this on YouTube, it's in the chat. If you're watching this on YouTube, please, I've put that in underneath. If you wish to learn more about Sonja and what she does, go and check her website out. If that resonates, you can contact her through her website. I will also share what each and every one of us does, our websites. Check it out. You don't have to contact us. You don't have to buy anything. You just check it out. See what resonates with you. We do these. We share these programs because we wish to support people to be the best them they can be, to find who they are and to be who they are, and to be able to live their best life. Because I think with all of us, we've gone through stuff to be able to get to that point, to be able to smile at what's going on in life. And we're here to smile. We're here to love. We're here to have fun. And we're here to have joy and happiness and love. So thank you to each and everyone, Sonja, Diane, and Jean. It has been a real pleasure. And next week, I'm being joined by Norman Gordon. Jean knows Norman. And he's going to be sharing Discovering You. So I hope you'll consider joining us for that. Take care. Be safe. Stay well. Namaste, sweet souls. Bye.
Bye.